Watch your back, please.
Kenny McPeak, the bluegrass of Kentucky to the royal grass of Ascot. Noble's Promise, how's he been since he got here?
He's done super. You know, he traveled well and good, healthy, good doing horse, and everything's been good up to now. We've had several gallops on Warren Hill, and this morning he worked over in the July course at Newmarket, and it's been flawless.
And I understand you've actually got a facility at home that means you can run your horses right-handed and on turf as well, which is not generally the way things go in the States. How much of a help do you think that is?
Well, it's good. You know, we're able to teach them to change to their left leads running up the hills or on the straights, and then right leads on the turns. And obviously it's the other way around at home when we train on the racetrack. But you know, most good horses will do that if you work on those kind of cues, and your riders know what to do, and obviously your horses get used to the repetition. It's no problem. The horses adapted well.
Now, an interesting form line for us, if we go back to last season's Breeders' Cup, he's very closely matched with Vale of York, who's a good horse over here. He's since run 5th in the Kentucky Derby, but you think he's a miler, essentially?
Yeah, you know, he's had a hard time going a little further than a mile. He's been a horse that's made the pace at a mile almost every race he's been in. I think that a couple of times, you know, the riders may have moved him a tad bit too early. A little frustrating in that department because they won't let me ride him. I'm too big. But you know, he's a very good colt, and you know, hopefully this distance is ideal. Hopefully the ground comes up right, and he does what he's capable of doing.
And you've got Kieran Fallon on board, who obviously no finer man around Ascot. What was the thinking behind having a locally based jockey as opposed to his regular rider in the States?
Well, I think anytime you've got a rider that knows the ground, I think that's an advantage, as opposed to bringing somebody in who doesn't know the circumstances, the timing of running, you know, from Swinley Bottom to the top. You know, really, we have mutual friends, Karen and I. As horsemen, we're able to communicate quite well. It's a non-issue, and fortunately he's not under contract with anybody, so that makes it easier as well, that his availability is there.
Now, obviously, we've got the first 3 from our 2,000 guineas, our 3-year-old classic generation, as it were, coming up against the same age for you. How do you feel that the form lines might match out, as I say, maybe looking back to the Breeders' Cup as well?
Well, you know, you've got seasons where you get weak crops here or strong crops there, and so you really don't know. Anytime you're combining different jurisdictions, whether it's states in America or countries, then you really don't know till you line them up and go. And so, you know, our horse has been as good as you can get over there in his generation and at this distance. And whether or not he's competitive against the European horse is hard to say until you line him up and let him run.
As you say, he's been making his own pace a lot of the time, and certainly if you look back to the Kentucky Derby, he was the only one of those that went from the pace that stayed anywhere near the front. Does he have to be ridden like that, or can he be ridden with more versatility?
No, he's very versatile. You know, I think that the rider got a little impatient in both the Breeders' Cup and the Derby, and you know, the ground from the quarter pole, or you know, I guess you would call it the 400 meters to the wire, is heavy in the Kentucky Derby because they run over it once, they come around, and then they have to run over it again, and it's really like a bog. And you know, he kind of got down in there on the last portion of the race and really, you know, floundered home a little bit. But up to that point at the mile, he was dandy. And you know, hopefully this ground is. I'm really not thrilled if it comes up real soft, but it can't control it if it does.
And Hard Buck is a name that many race fans here will remember. Ran second to Doyen in the King George VI about 6 years ago now. Was it always your thought that if you had another horse good enough, you'd come back and have another crack?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I took the year off. I had a sabbatical in 2005. Part of 2006, I came back. It's taken me a little while to build up the quality of the horses, you know, the quality of the clients. It takes a rare combination of both to be able to come over here. You know, you have to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and obviously it's an expensive ordeal as well. But to me, it's a life experience, and you know, I actually have a life goal. I'd like to win a race at Ascot every year.
And you're giving yourself more than the one opportunity this year. You've got a couple of arrows fired in the Chesham and also the Albany Stakes. What can you tell us about your 2-year-old?
Well, you know, over there we really have the sprint races right now, and I really wanted to run them a little further. Both horses had trained good on our grass gallops up the hills. Both of them are very professional, good doers as far as very healthy, and thought the timing was right. And we figured we'd take a shot at it. Both of them are maidens, which is unusual for me. I'm usually more conservative than that. But especially the colt's probably going to like the 7 furlongs. We don't get that distance until probably September. So you know, it really, for us, it's pretty good timing for him in particular. The filly's going to have to improve a bit, but I think it's possible.
And presumably the breeding suggests to you that they're ultimately going to be better over a distance of ground.
Yeah, you know, the colt's by Touch Gold, who wanted 1.5 miles, and I don't think there's any doubt that he'll eventually want, you know, not only 7 furlongs, probably 9 or 10. But this is a good test class for those two, and you know, the likelihood whether they win or not, we're going to learn something and give me a better idea what kind of horse I bring next year.
Okay, and just going back to Noble's Promise, obviously the Breeders' Cup is in Kentucky this year. Would that be a likely end of the season target?
Well, that was another motivation. You know, we need to figure out whether or not we're going to run in the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile or whether we run in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So, you know, we wanted to give him a try here. If he can't beat 3-year-olds, you know, and more than likely there will be some European presence in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Not only the 3-year-olds, the 4s and the 5s and whomever. But, you know, this is a good time for us to give him a trial at it and see how he handled the grass and see how he handled the flat mile. And, you know, one thing leads to another.